Tierra Encantada, la Tierra Encantada, Tierra Encantada, la Tierra Encantada.
Hola, buenos días. Hey there, friends. Yes, Tierra Encantada is finished. It's done. For the first time ever in all of my time playing Planet Zoo, I have planned a project, built a project, and completed it. Of course, this is, kind of easier because Tierra Encantada is a smaller zoo than I usually do, but I'm just proud to say that I planned something and I built it, and I can truly say now that it is done. So, what is Tierra Encantada if you haven't been following along? It is a South American, Middle American zoo that is based on the 7 animals that were released in the America's Pack DLC for Planet Zoo. And the goal was right away to build a series of biomes that would represent several iconic and important areas, locations, biomes of the Americas, from sort of Central to Southern America. And the entrance, as you can see here, is very much based on the sort of Spanish colonial architecture that you can see all throughout that region of the world. And we'll not dwell too long here, because during this tour I'm just going to do a walking tour through the zoo, talking about it as I go. If you want to see how I build it, I have a playlist right up there in the corner that you can click to see all these separate videos. But I think the entrance area, I could have made it bigger. I could have made it like a whole street with these cool flags and everything, but I kind of like the cozy vibe of it. I think the colorful nature of it makes it stand out, and I'm really pleased with it. And I got to use this awesome gate, by the way, which has been in the game for a long time. And on we go to the actual start of Tierra Encantada. So what is coming up right now is the sort of entrance area of Tierra Encantada. The intended route for you is to go here. It's also possible for you to take this route, and as you see, it will lead you straight into a jungle. But the way it was conceived, the way it was planned, you need to follow this route upwards past this adobe structure and past these murals. So we are going to take the intended route past these murals, which sort of hint at the animals that are to come. We have the flamingo, the Rhea, the coyote, the bighorn sheep, the saki monkey, the ocelot, the bush dog, and a final surprise I threw in there for all those giant otter fans out there. You can be either a giant otter fan or a giant otter fan. That didn't make sense. You can be a fan of giant otters, or you can be a giant fan of otters. That's what I meant. So coming up right away at the very beginning is a little habitat based on what you see here in Bolivia. The salt flats called the Salar de Uyuni, which are massive salt flats, the largest ones in the world, and at certain times in the year, flamingos flock there to breed, to gather, to do whatever flamingos like to do. At this side you have sort of I tried to do an emulation of just a mountainous region with these prayer flags and these sort of currents and even some hidden ruins there, but we're going to start by heading up to the flamingo habitat. So it just was feeding time apparently, so a lot of them actually were on the land, but as you can see, this habitat is kind of abstract, kind of mysterious, kind of bare bones, but I really like this myself a lot. The look of this white water reflecting the sky, the absolute contrast with the very pink American flamingo in here, the mist here at the back obscuring sort of the border here between the horizon and the flamingos. It is, in my opinion, maybe the best one I've made here. You'll have to be the judge of that, but I really like the concept of this, the execution as well. Although I would love for all of these guys to be in the land. I'll show you some cinematics while we watch. But this flamingo habitat, very sort of abstract, more symbolic really, but I think I really did a nice job here. And of course the real trick here is to use the faux rocks colored white and also color the water white. And these salt piles, so to speak, are actually like the stalactite pieces from the Twilight pack. But flamingos, a staple in every Yelbu zoo and a staple in almost every zoo in the world. So we are going to move straight along. This is, as I said, not the tour in which I show you how I built it and explain everything, but just take you on a trip. We move past this rocky scene. I have a little bit of an explanation post here. Apacheta de los Andes. These are like symbolic markers placed for spiritual guidance, really, and a symbol of hope. But we get a bit of a hint here as to what is coming next. In the southern plains of Argentina, we have a whole bunch of estancias, and they are ranches, large farm ranches, really, estates that are in the grasslands of Argentina. And I've sort of imagined an abandoned one that has now become overrun with Rhea birds and also 2 or 3 guanacos in there. La Estancia Perdida, the forgotten estate. So the Familia Suarez owned this back in the 19th century. They no longer dwell here. And as you can see, we get a nice view here of the farm, the former farm. It is abandoned. And a whole bunch of interesting animals dwell here now. Had a lot of fun building this, basing it off of actual architecture. Did some research as to which trees belonged here, and this tree, the ombu tree, is very much a iconic tree of that region of the world. And it's the habitat itself is very bare bones, but this feels like an area sort of scorched by the sun, bleached by the heat, and really cool animals as well. The Rhea, of course. So happy that it's in the game. Very unique animal. I feel like a lot of people don't know that this actually exists and lives in South America, but it does. And at the other end, sort of a detour from the rest of the zoo, is a petting farm with another massive ombu tree here. But we have a petting farm, the first one I've ever built, so bear with me. Had to do a lot of research as to what belongs in a petting farm. We have these salt licks blocks, these random things for them to climb on, interact with, things that are actually functional for the upkeep of the animals. We have a bunch of alpacas here, which are of course domestic and hail from South America. And we have one donkey by the name of Ernesto, a 5-star donkey, and then some chickens who may or not be inside of this barn here having a rest, it looks like. Yes, they are. So yeah, just a simple place for the people here to come and chill, hang out with animals, probably also have a rest here on these benches in the shade of this huge giant tree. It was a lot of fun. I was a bit hesitant about adding a petting farm. I'm not really familiar with building for it, and also I'm kind of not a big fan of it in the real world, but realizing that it doesn't have to look like the standard and it can also look like this made me have a lot of fun with it. So we're going to move on to the estate. Has some farm fields left here with some scarecrows to keep away other crows and other animals, and we have this Ristorante Gaucho. Gaucho is sort of like, if I had to compare it to something like South American, Argentine cowboy kind of life. Not quite the same, but you know, and this restaurant actually does feature an interior. Did my best to feature some sort of a menu and make an interior here. A lot of Z fighting I should have fixed, but we haven't done yet. So yeah, this is actually, I'm pretty pleased with this. This interior feels like, you know, an approximation of a real space, to put it like that. The color scheme and the decoration and everything. It's like a sort of a Disney park, theme park feel, but yeah, was a nice interior to decorate. and I feel like I had a lot of fun, although I didn't quite plan for the guests to walk actually through the door and they enter the area through here. But let's ignore that for now and go past these wonderful sunflowers, which are kind of a challenge to use in habitats, I feel, but I feel the look of them. I seem to remember that I did aim them at where the sun would be at noon, and then I aimed the sunflowers right over there to sort of reflect their actual behavior, so to speak, to follow the sun around. We are leaving this habitat behind, this world behind, and we're moving to the very south of the United States, the very north of Mexico, a desert called the Sonora Desert, or the Desierto de Sonora, which is first and foremost a habitat known for its flora, because all of the cacti that you see right now are actually pretty unique to that region of the world. I don't remember their names exactly. It's the organ pipe, the saguaro, and the barrel cactus. And this one, what is this guy? The prickly pear. I seem to remember most of these are kind of unique to the Sonora Desert, or at least were in my research. So yeah, we sort of reflect that we're moving away from the sort of the grasslands into a desert environment. Also have a little section here with this typical adobe hut building here, sort of heralding the arrival of a new environment. You pass through the Arc of Silence. And one thing that makes the Sonora Desert notable is it also has a lot of ruins from pretty cool old civilizations that live there. Not a lot is known about these people, of course, but I sort of staged this viewing area inside or on top of one of those ruins. So you're going to get a pretty good overview here of the concept of this habitat. So the bighorn sheep lives completely elevated in what I could best describe as sort of an 8-shaped or almost 8-shaped habitat, living above the coyotes. Very unfeasible in the real world, of course. This is just begging for problems to arise, but in here it really works because the bighorn doesn't jump down, the ocelot doesn't climb up, and we have no problem with it. So the bighorn does have free reign of this entire upper area. Can go here, over this arch over here, and all the way up to here, although they very rarely do. And down below, the coyote lives in sort of like, a canyon, the bottom of a canyon. And yeah, in any kind of lighting, this area really looks nice. You can have your pick. Where do you want the sunlight to hit? What kind of mood do you want to set here? And you sort of get a hint of what's coming. I tried to hide a lot of it with rocks. I might even go back and change it even, or encourage you if you want to load up this zoo, maybe play with this a bit more, but you can kind of see what's coming next. But yeah, I feel like the atmosphere really works in its favor here. We're going to move down because there is a second way of viewing this entire area. So we get a pretty unique view here, almost eye level and below the bighorn here, which feels like if I saw this in a real zoo, I would be really happy to have an animal sort of be above you in a way. And here you have the view of the coyotes, which have this entire sort of ruin, overgrown cavern section to themselves. They can sleep in the shade here, which they are wont to do, or they can have a rest here in the cave underneath the actual shelter for the bighorn. So yeah, an animal, coyote is obviously an animal with a very large range. It's kind of same for the bighorn, but the coyote lives in so many different kinds of environments. So it was kind of had my pick for where to place them. You could also place these in a more like temperate, like Northern American forest environment, and they wouldn't look out of place. But we leave this section behind already, and we're going to head through this mysterious tunnel. And because we are leaving the desert behind, we're going to enter a very, very different biome. And you will see that the rocks slowly morph from desert to these mossy overgrown rocks. And that is because we are entering, as you can tell, I have to say, guys, this is my favorite moment in the zoo. When you have walked through the desert and you enter here and you just enter an entirely different kind of vibe. And this is the Pantanal, the huge, massive wetlands, swamp, forest environment that is the home to so many plants and such a huge amount of wildlife. And if you followed along in my videos, this was planned to be an empty space or an aviary, but we went and placed kind of a surprise for you in there. Although the beginning of the zoo does have a fountain that reveals the inhabitants that I've placed in here. You can see one of them back there. That is the American wood stork. But there's something else coming up. You can see one of them there. Yes, the giant otter is one of the animals that lives in the Pantanal. And they have a place here in... I'm getting distracted by my own creation, but this walkway over the swampy river with the backdrop of this forest, this sunken tree, these lily pads, water lilies. I really like this build. It came together so well, and I felt like I had to place something in here, so I eventually went with those guys. Love to hang out in the back. The whole time I've placed them in this habitat, they've been there at the back, which is fair, which is their prerogative. But I sort of want to get a good view of a giant otter before we leave them behind. They have a lot of space. They actually have a lot of space to swim and run around, so it's kind of the will of nature, really, if you get to see them here, because there's a lot of room for them to hide back there in the bushes here. So they sort of decide what to do. Not sure how realistic this barrier is. They could probably, gnaw through it and bite someone's head off, fingers off. They're kind of menacing looking guys, aren't they? But yeah, if you want to see this habitat for yourself, check out the zoo on the workshop, I would say, because we are going to move on over this walkway and we are getting much closer to the actual jungle, because the Pantanal itself is not a jungle per se. It is very much a flooded swampland, wetlands with these forested areas. But what is coming up is very much a rainforest. And we are approaching sort of an abandoned research station. Why it was abandoned, no one knows, but there's a bit of environmental storytelling going on. So let's head into this building over here, which does have a lot of blueprints inside to recreate this sort of, those typical places in a zoo where they try to make it look like a lived-in research environment or a hut or something like it. And yeah, you have a pineapple placed here, a printer and everything, but the real star of the show is obviously this bush dog habitat right over there. So the bush dog, they are kind of hard to spot at times, but that was the goal of this habitat. You have sort of an edge of the forest environment, and they have a lot of space for them to run around and hide. And it's very much an overgrown kind of setting. I really like the look of this, by the way. That is if I do say so myself, that's a well-designed little corner of the habitat there. I hope you agree. That's just good vibes. Anyway, the bush dog, one of my favorite. I didn't know about this animal until, relatively recently. In a zoo here in Belgium, they claimed to have it but never saw it, and then recently in a redesigned habitat I eventually did see it and fell in love with this guy immediately. What a fantastic creature. I think very much an unknown creature for many people, but yeah, you just have to love them. Once you know them, I think you'll never forget this amazing canine. A wonderful creature, and I feel like a great immersive habitat all the same. Oh, almost ran into this desk. we are leaving the research station behind and we are now headed straight into the actual jungle of the Amazon. Although it's not quite the Amazon, but that's something I'll tell you later. You have a different alternative viewing here of the bush dog, and I feel like it's worth it even if you don't see the bush dog. You know, just the way this looks is worth it. But I think, you know, you come here for the bush dog, right? You come to see this wonderful creature, of course, sort of as a second viewing opportunity. But we're going to head through this jungle. The Amazon here, as I stated, of course, the world's largest rainforest. But I put some stuff in here that doesn't exist in the Amazon rainforest, but in, you know, other large forests of the region. I've explained more about that in the video about it. But yeah, I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I think, if you ask me, I would gladly create a whole map like this and just spam plants like this. Because in a smaller project like this, you can just keep spamming plants and it is actually no issue for my frame rate personally. Still looking at 60 frames per second. But yeah, lovely environment. But we are heading to a wonderful habitat which was created by another creator friend of ours of the channel, and that is Alfred Supersauce. Go give him some love. I'll state his name in the description and in the comments. But he created this saki monkey habitat for me. Lovely, cheerful, playful habitat with these wonderful traversable huts for them to visit, sleep in, play in, and this amazing, I think this is my favorite part, this amazing like fruit platform really. But it's such a charismatic little build, and I'm so glad that I asked them for help, because this is exactly what I was dreaming of and didn't quite know how to execute it myself, but it just works so amazingly. They're not prone to using it the whole time. These guys hang out a lot down below. You know, that's just what Planet Zoo animals do, right? You give them a whole climbing rig and they hang out on the floor. But when they do use it, they visit the whole environment around us. I've even caught them sleeping in those huts. Wonderful habitat. Those umbrellas and using these bins as planters and everything. Really, really great habitat. And I'm so glad I asked for help. If at any point in the zoo of yours you need maybe my assistance, just give me a call. You know, a Discord message or whatever. And I'll apply my trademark skills in your zoo. That's to Alfred Supersauce, but to be honest, if you're in the comments to say Yelbu built for me, you know, why not? Hit me up. Anyway, the environment sort of changes. And as I said, the Amazon does not have pyramids. That's just a straight up fact. So I did put a sign back there, Amazon. I might need to put a second sign here as well and make it, you know, actually refer to where we are. I might just do that actually. But actually it's not in this zoo right now. But as you can see, these Mesoamerican stepped pyramids are coming up. This is the last thing we built for Tierra Encantada, and we put a lot of time in it and a lot of effort. And as you can see, you have this pyramid right over there. You will see when you click this video what kind of thumbnail I did go for. Maybe this is thumbnail worthy, but we are going to head into this mysterious, abandoned, ancient, overgrown temple. Don't imagine too much, there's nothing going on behind those walls, but yeah, you get a wonderful large window here. And in sunlight, wreathed is this hidden abandoned temple for the ocelot. The climbing frame that you see was constructed by Digital Blob, and if you're not tired of that name yet, he's the person who made the Paws Zoo, which I toured, and has helped, you know, with some ideas and inspiration in many other builds of mine, honestly. And he built this climbing rig for the ocelot, with my favorite element is this water element. This ocelot habitat is notable for being very overgrown and very mysterious, to the point that I have no idea where the ocelots are. And yeah, I think I might just see if I can find them for you. Seems like we've woken them up. These two ocelots are named after two cats, one of which still lives with us, and the other one, it's a bit of a sad story. We had to, with deep regret, had to give him away because he had started to show very, very negative behavior after the birth of our first kid, and we postponed that decision for a long time. But so yeah, still really miss him. So James, wherever you are, love you, man. And Jesse still lives with us. So these ocelots are also sort of a personal thing for me. And then you get this viewing window to really emphasize that you are down below at the bottom of the jungle, a mysterious, misty jungle, and the wonderful blue sky beyond. And guys, we are leaving this temple environment behind. Watch your step here. And as you can tell, very slowly, this temple environment morphs back into the more sunny, sun-bleached adobe hut that you saw at the beginning. And that actually concludes our tour of Tierra Encantada. So, my friends, it has been a lot of fun building this zoo. If you watched along in streams, I hope you had fun. If you follow along with the videos, then I hope you had fun as well, I guess is what I'm saying. But I think I'm really, really proud of this one for several reasons. Number one, I planned ahead a lot for Tierra Encantada. I don't usually do this. A lot of the zoos that I have built and am building are very chaotic, very unplanned, and they don't have very well thought out like sight lines or guest viewing or even guest routes. And in this zoo, it's not a crazy zoo concept really, but you just have this loop and you go through these environments one by one, and I try to sort of merge them gracefully, and worked with sight lines, worked with really making environments feel different, and really try to do research as to what I was trying to emulate, because a lot of South American zoos, honestly, I feel, are just like, yep, let's put some jungle stuff here and that's South America, right? But there's so much more going on, both in, Central and Southern America that feels like it deserves a spotlight to me. So I hope I did the continent proud, right? I hope I didn't, I created respectful depictions of actual environments. And I honestly am very happy myself with how this panned out. Every section of this feels really different, really unique. And now that I look at it zoomed out, I'm really pleased with how I did here. Also, this was great therapy for me coping with the destruction of a section of Bolo Bolo, which I am rebuilding still behind the scenes. I know it's been months, but it's actually looking very good at the moment. That concludes Tierra Encantada. It is on the workshop right now. So go and check it out if you enjoyed it, and I leave you with one final rendition of our theme song.
At dawn, I'm gone from Tijuana. The gray dove calls to guide my way across the sea to reach Chihuahua, with the coyote as my only friend. Down to the ruins of Copan, where jaguars reign in shadowed jungle. The bright Quetzal in crimson mantle takes to the sky to show me home. Tierra Encantada, Guatemala.